declaration of interest from Councillor Fraser for item 5, and he will leave the meeting during this item. He's also put forward a transparency statement for item 6, given that he undertakes work for the Housing Department. However, having applied the test, he will remain for this item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I should possibly say, and I'm sure Laurie should as well, I'm not sure if it's relevant, but in the case of transparency, I am a bid payer, a bid levy payer. But I don't
Well,
think that,
too, then I'm a bid levy payer as well.
I don't think that affects. It's quite straightforward. Most of the people in there, businesses in there, are so I don't think that's effective.
Transparency is good.
Okay, that's it. So we've noted that. Okay, so in a slight departure from the stated agenda, I'm going to open with a new item, which is the good news stories. It's 1 year since we have all been elected, and together, along with Ward Manager Lewis Hanna, as Team Nairn, we have done and delivered an awful lot. If you look at the Common Good Fund, we've set up and moving towards creating the Nairn Common Good, the engagement group. We now get very detailed monthly operational financial monitoring statements, which enables us to delve down into any level of expenditure by the Nairn Common Good. We've created a Nairn Common Good Development Officer post, which has currently been advertised, and we've got a new events and festival budget for 2023, which is £10,000. So that's more the structure. If you look at the Nairn Common Good projects that we've all agreed and been involved in, there's the Sandown Lands Community Food Growing Feasibility Study, there's a Harbour Street Toilets Feasibility Study, and there's a Links Redevelopment, which is the regeneration funding for Team Hamish Phase 2. We've also supported the Nairn bid with regeneration funding for Nairn, bid benches, places to linger, and 2022 we've funding support for the Christmas lights. Other events, as I said, we've agreed a £10,000 support package for the Nairn Games. And that's a total support package agreed by all 4 councillors and the ward managers. And we received an email from Hugh Allison, the new games convener, thanking us profusely for our ongoing support. So good news on our actions is to be welcomed. We're continuing financial support for the Book and Arts, and on the wider projects, the reuse, recycling, repurposing feasibility study will in all likelihood be awarded in the next week or 2. So on that basis, I have a personal thanks to HIE for their funding and to Highland Council again. So this is your 4 councillors, the ward manager, Team Nairn, and Highland Council officers and other stakeholders working together. And I need to stress that, working together to deliver for Nairn. So well done, guys. We've done an awful lot, and Lewis and the team in the first year, and let's keep it up. But the key to this, as we all say, is working together. You can achieve so much more. So if we move over to the bid, Lewis, are you going to say 1 or 2 things about the bid before I open up? Item 3. Sorry, my apologies. Does anybody else wish to comment on the good news? Have you any additional good news you wish to throw in?
I would say it's been a pleasure working with the Access panel and supporting them as well, doing lots of things around Nairnshire to benefit so many people. Great team to work with. Very amicable.
Well done. Councillor Oldham.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I can't disagree with anything you said. The only thing I'd add to the list is that despite the best efforts of the naysayers, we did get good results. The Inner Murray Firth Local Development Plan, we ensured there's no development on NA 506 before we get the bypass, and also the changes we had made for the Viewfield dam, which I think was good. And on a more personal note, for me, as my first year as councillor, I think that what's also given me pleasure is the amount of work I've been able to do in terms of casework, which obviously I can't talk about here. But it's good when you can help people, which I think is nice. And I noticed this morning we've had the results from the work that's been done on the speeding proposals in Eldern, which should be coming through. Again, I've been to several meetings on that over the last year. I think that's again proof that Highland Council is doing good work for the ward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Laurie, anything you wish to say?
No, I'm doing fine. We're very well. We've good working relationships with the Lord Lieutenant with a number of activities, particularly over the coronation. And we actually had a clean at the War Memorial Day as part of the coronation celebrations, which was actually a working day as opposed to a holiday.
Yep. Okay, that's good. No, well done, guys, and look forward to the coming year. We've got a lot of good projects coming along. So we'll move on to item 3. Well, my apologies. Lewis, have you anything to say as a valued member of Team Nairn?
No, nothing to add, Chair. Just thank you for your kind remarks and comments. Thank you
Okay,
to all.
that's fine. Okay, we'll move on to item 3, which is the bid. And Lewis, do you want to say a short introduction or anything about the bid?
Yep, thank you, Chair. I'll just quickly run through some key points in this report. So this paper provides a summary of the Nairn Business Improvement District, the bid, and their proposal for a renewed Nairn bid, and it outlines the benefits for the council and also for Nairn in renewing that Nairn bid by hopefully voting in favour of the ballot as a potential bid levy payer. In terms of some brief background, proposals were previously brought to this committee on 13th June 2018 in respect of the establishment of a Nairn bid, and those proposals were supported, and committee recommended that the council vote in favour of the ballot at that time. Ballot was successful and the Nairn bid has been in operation since then. The report presented today sets out some key outcomes from the Nairn bid annual reports to demonstrate their work to date and the key benefits to the council and to Nairn in respect to that work. In terms of the current renewal process, as you're aware, members, an update was given to you at the Nairnshire Area Business meeting on the 10th of May by the Nairn bid manager and treasurer, outlining the details of the Nairn bid proposal and business case, as well as the timetable for that bid election. Nairn bid has now submitted all necessary documentation and proposes to go to ballot on the 24th of August this year. And it should also be noted, members, that a report was taken to the Economy Infrastructure Committee on the 4th of May, which offered a formal assessment of the Nairn bid proposal relative to the council's right to veto. It's particularly worth noting that the committee agreed not to exercise that right to veto in relation to the Nairn bid's proposed renewal. The recommendation made by this committee in respect of the bid ballot will be given to the full council when it meets on the 29th of June 2023, and at that time Highland Council will decide on how to cast its ballot at that meeting, as the council itself would be a levy payer. So members, you're asked to note the proposal for the renewal of the Nairn bid and to recommend to full council at its meeting on 29th June that as a potential bid levy payer, the council supports the bid proposal in the bid ballot. And I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll open that up. Has any comments or questions they wish to say to Lewis? No. Okay. I actually have, because I refer you to section 5.6. Amongst the lobbying work carried out by the bid, last May I was asked to chair a meeting with Jenny Gilruth and the bid regarding the Nairn bypass. The minister stated at that meeting she would give us a response within a couple of months once the sort of Scottish capital budget had been clarified. To date, 1 year later, we have received no communication or clarity. Indeed, we now have a new transport minister. So what was proffered in May last year to the bid and the business community driving and wanting clarity on the Nairn bypass, we've received nothing, and certainly not what was promised. At best, this is disrespectful and undermines local democracy, and at worst, it's disgraceful and completely unacceptable. So I'll allow you to draw your own conclusions, and if there are no other points, we'll just agree to it's a process, and it's coming back to the Highland Council, as Lewis has pointed out, on the 28th. It's been to E&I on the 4th, and we wish them good luck in the ballot in August.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Right, we'll now move on to item number 4, which is the ward discretionary budget, and I'd hand over to Lewis and then maybe to Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, this very brief agenda item is just it's a transparency item. It's just a way for us to report to committee what we've used our ward discretionary budget for, and also the public is then in turn aware of what we've used it for. It's worth noting that there's one item on that that's incorrect. It's stated there on the agenda that the Nairn Games Committee has received £1,000 from the ward discretionary funds. That's incorrect. It's been charged to the Common Good Fund's events and festivals budget, and an appropriate internal recharge has been carried out to make sure that that's been taken out of the ward discretionary fund spend. So the only line of expenditure is that Green Hive Trike Nairn project one that's listed there.
Okay. I think you're going a bit hard on yourself to say there's an error in the papers. The papers were correct at the time of going to press, but so fleet of foot are we and responsive in the area, Ward 18, that we responded to a request from the Games convener for sort of emergency funding to assist with the mass bike bans, and we agreed that. So it was not an error on our parts. It's just that, and this needs to be recognised, it was just that we responded quickly and very, very positively to a request from the Games convener. So on that basis, the only thing I have to say, and I'll open it up first, is there any comments?
Just that, could that be amended, that the update regarding the Games Committee, so it's on record as to, you know, how much they got?
£10,000, but that's
yes,
not from
the
the
support.
ward discretionary ban. That's
yes.
what we're supporting them with. Okay, Paul. You're muted, Paul.
Beg your pardon, I was just pausing because I wasn't sure it was 10,000, but let's not worry about that. That's for another day. I just wanted to comment that we are now into a new year. We've only actually spent £262.84 from this year's funds. So if anybody is watching this and has a project which they would like funding for, we have money to spend. If we don't spend it, we lose it. So let's make sure we spend it this year.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and thank you for stealing my thunder. I was about to make the exact same point, but you got in ahead of me. I think we'll make a regular feature of this. These are part of the good news stories. And as Paul quite rightly says, hopefully this will encourage other people to come forward for the ward discretionary funding, to realise that it is available to assist them. It's available to assist them on a one-off basis. This is not revenue funding. We can't support things on an ongoing basis. This is seed corn funding to help a project, a one-off project. So we will return to this and encourage folk to step forward. So the action is to note. So we agreed to note?
Yes.
Okay, we'll now move on to the consultation to item 5, the consultation to dispose of the Grant Street yard. And I'll hand over to Sarah. Oh, you leave, Roy.
Good morning, members. Yes, this is the second consultation, as you're aware of the situation regarding Grant Street yard, the workshop and store there. There's a full report before you today, including the analysis. The types of responses that we received to our consultation, as can be seen in that report, a number of them were against the proposal to sell. However, it is interesting that there were very few repeat. There was only the one repeat responder in the consultation, which was the Community Council. All of the others were different to those that had responded previously. So it's impossible to tell whether or not they saw the first consultation or not. The position is, members, you're very aware of the circumstances regarding Grant Street yard. You're very aware of the situation following the first consultation, which amended the proposal for disposal from disposal by sale to disposal by lease only. And you're also aware from the report that this is keeping on the table the option for lease, but to amend or to consider the option this morning whether or not we should be disposing by sale in its present state, and also to consider the question of demolition. It's been made clear by case law, or clarified certainly, that the question of demolition is a disposal. It's a permanent removal, so it's quite appropriate for that to be considered as well. I think the report is very self-explanatory. The analysis is very self-explanatory. I think I would like to just open it up for any specific questions in case there's specific things to clarify, because I know this is something that members you've considered now. This will be considered now for the second time before committee, and there may be specific questions that you wish responses to in your considerations. So I think it might be better to do it that way around than for you all to hear me go on at length about something that you're fully aware of.
Okay, that's appreciated. And Sarah, thank you for a clear and precise paper. It's much appreciated. It laid out the process. And I'll hand over to Councillor Oldham. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. I do have some specific proposals on this. I have some questions first. There's been some discussion offline about potential ways we can move forward on this. One of the things that concerns me is that we could get ourselves into the trap of having to have yet another consultation. So I'd like to be clear at this stage how broadly our options are in terms of things like, for example, if we were to sell at a reduced price, if we were to rent at a reduced price, would that be within our gift, or are we constrained by the need to consult before we went down those sort of roads? Thank you.
The question of reduction of price is covered. We actually have a specific policy that covers the common good aspect. It's published online. You are aware, members, that particularly with common good, but in respect of all aspects of decisions that members make for this type of thing, you're bound by the best value principle. However, there are circumstances where assets can be sold or leased for less than market value, and there are certain circumstances, there's a specific policy that covers that. What we're asking for here, I mean, the common good provisions in community empowerment are very specific. They're to consult when we're considering disposing of an asset and change of use, obviously, but in this case we're considering disposal. Disposal being by way of sale, long lease, or some other beneficial form of long-term entitlement. And it is simply as long and short as that. It's up to us then how much more specific and detailed we become. At this stage, I would suggest we look, and we're looking to keep it as broad as possible so that we have open to yourselves, members, every option possible to consider. If we knew, for instance, that we were going to lease to a specific person, or we wanted to sell to a specific organisation for a specific price, say a reduced price, for instance, if it was community asset transfer or something like that, and we had already gone down the process of community asset transfer assessment, and yourselves, members, had approved, subject to any consultation that common good may then have to do, you would do a specific consultation, but we're not in that position here. You want to have as many options open to you to consider what might be the most appropriate way forward for the common good. And on that basis, it would be to keep it as wide as possible. So either a disposal by sale, we already have the disposal by lease available to you from a prior decision, or disposal by demolition. The disposal by sale, keeping it as broad as possible, would allow you to consider either for market value if it was being marketed for market value, or if it was a situation whereby a community group came forward, by way of example, something like community asset transfer or some other suggestion, and you carried out your full assessment of the circumstances, then you could consider what would be appropriate in those circumstances. I think at the moment we just keep it as broad as possible, and certainly I would hope we could avoid having to run another consultation if at all possible on this matter.
Okay. Yes, I had concerns, but you've addressed those. We've got complete flexibility. We can either lease, we can either sell. If you look to sell, you've got one end of the spectrum, you have to achieve best value, but then at the other end of the spectrum, there's community asset, and we've got the flexibility, once we agree this, to go down either road. So we've got complete flexibility. And again, I say thank you for that. We've done the consultation. We can lease, we can sell at market value, we can sell at community asset transfer, whatever it is. So no, that's appreciated. And I think that unless there's other comments, Councillor Jarvie, have you anything to say, Babs?
Well, that's 2 consultations. Thank you, Sarah, for your detailed report here and collating all this and putting in responses there. That's very helpful too. In view of the ideas that have come forward, I would be very reluctant to sell. I would like to see it still be a community use of some kind, and I think there's ideas there to be explored, and I think if people want to expand on those ideas and get in touch and look at the place, I think it needs considered. So I'm not for selling.
What we've got in front of us today completes the mosaic, the jigsaw, and we've got flexibility to do what we wish to do. So should we choose to do whatever route we wish to go down? Paul, Councillor Oldham.
Sorry, Michael, are we into debate now?
Yes.
Okay, so as a custodian of the common good, I'm looking at this from a straightforward financial viewpoint. So if we sell the yard, we're told we'll make an estimated £50,000 from the sale. Our members have suggested to me that we could make more than that. It could be as high as £100,000, but let's stick by the £50,000 figure now. So if the 50,000, if we sold it and we made £50,000, then the money would be invested in equities to bring in an income to the common good fund. Now, long-term equity yields over the past 50 years, allowing for inflation of around 5%, better than that if you look more recently. So that means the yard will yield us, if we sell it, the yard will yield us in the order of £2,500 a year. And if indeed members are right and it's worth more than that, could yield us up to £5,000 a year. So the proposed alternative is to make it safe and rent it out. Now, I see 2 problems with this. The first one is the cost. The cost estimate is £15,000. I don't think that's unrealistic when we look at how much it costs us to demolish a much smaller building in common good ownership. But that's also assuming there's no asbestos on the roof. If you look at the roof at the southern end of the site, it looks very much to me like that's corrugated asbestos. So the actual cost could be somewhat higher. So the best ground rent that has been estimated by the members, by the officers we could get, is £1,500 a year. So if we just stick to that £15,000 a year cost, that means it's going to be a decade or more before we get any net income from the yard if we rent it out. Things get even worse, of course, if we offer it for rental to a local charity at a lower rent. And then we start to get even worse rentals. So the bottom line for me is that retaining yard will not retain the best yield for the common good fund. So I'm opposed to doing so. I propose we should sell the yard as is. Now, it's not invalidating the proposals we are seeing, because the particular organisation that's interested in acquiring yards has already said that they would consider purchase. Now, that's grand, and if they were going to go down that road, then we could offer support for the purchase actually from the common good, but also from the more discretionary fund which we've been talking about. And indeed, we could even consider selling it at a lower price. That's the discussion for another day. I think that what we've got to decide here is whether we're going to sell or to rent. And for me, it's a no-brainer from the common goods point of view. Looking at it as a common good custodian, I think selling it is the only rational thing to be doing. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Barbara.
Okay. Well, another option I thought, because I agree with Paul, we are custodians and we want to see come back in our common good. We want, rather than losses, is if we lease it, it's still worth the £50,000 because we still have it as an asset. That the price is only going to go up. It is a piece of land. There's new levelling up funding coming. We have coastal funding, and really we are needing a changing places toilet, and we could put a unit in there. You can rent them, clear it, charge for the toilet. I think we need to look at charging toilets. We have decent toilets, and charge for other units. Storage is a thing that keeps coming up again. Storage and toilets in Nairn. People want storage and people want a decent toilet. And we could address things in there by putting in units, even bike units, because Fishertown is a place filled with properties with tiny little gardens, some none at all. And people want bike storage, which could come off active travel budget. That could be funded that way, and we could get an income from these various storage units within that area. And if someone else comes up with a better idea, it's units we're going to put in there, they can come out of there. But it's still worth its value as a plot, basically.
Okay.
That could increase. So just an idea to address two other local issues, but
okay, that's appreciated. Sorry, Lewis, you wish to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to make one point just for clarification. You'll recall that when we previously tried to market the site, we had to cease marketing because it was considered by a surveyor to be in a dangerous, the buildings were considered to be in a dangerous condition. So if we were to lease the buildings, lease the site, the first thing we would need to do to allow that to be fit for market would be to demolish those buildings, which would incur those costs that Councillor Oldham was touching upon there. So if we were to retain ownership of the yard, I must stress that I think the costs to demolish the buildings would be significant, and whether we were to retain the yard for future development or retain the yard for lease, given the safety concerns, those demolition works would have to be carried out either way at considerable expense to the Common Good Fund. Just a point I thought I should clarify. Okay,
thank you, Liz. I totally agree 100% with Paul. I think that it's a liability. I think long term it's going to become an even more expensive liability. There could be a schedule, there could be all sorts of things served on us. Paul makes a very astute point that the return we would get at 5% from the lower figure on a guesstimated sale of 50,000. This is money that we can do things with, rather than the inertia that seems to surround an awful lot of common good projects. I think we've got to make a decision here and now. And I think, as it's laid out by Sarah in the paper, we've looked at it, we've tried to lease it, we've gone through the consultation. And I think the third point, that we just look to put it out on the open market. Because the other thing I bring to mind is community asset transfer. That may be a political aspiration for bigger political bodies than ourselves. We're looking after the Nairn common good, and there's no moral imperative here to do community asset transfer. We're looking after financially what's best for the Nairn common good, and from a financial point of view, it is 100% to put it up for sale and achieve best value. So on that basis, sorry, Paul, you want to come back in?
Yeah, cool.
So I should have said I'm making that as a proposal. So if you're the second, that's fine.
I'll happy to second that. So, do we go for a vote here? We don't need one. Well, I was waiting to say, just for protocol procedure. Okay, so that's agreed.
There's no amendments, so you don't have an amendment.
No, okay. So. I get it. I was just saying that in the common good might have been slightly different. Okay, on that basis, then we've agreed to go with the recommendations outlined in the paper 1, 2, and 3, which is to put the option to put it on the market. So thank you. That's a good bit of business. So let's move on. And we've agreed that we'll go now to, thank you, Sarah, for that. Appreciate that, and appreciate all the work you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, members.
So, okay, thanks, Sarah. Sorry for the delayed start. We'll now turn, Sandra. Nice to see you again. Well, now the housing performance report. I think it's
gotta wait for Laurie to return, Michael.
Okay.
Yes.
The return of the provost.
I should say, while we're waiting, I think it's worth having a conversation with the people that were interested in acquiring that plot, and just saying to them, you know, it's something the conversation should be had about how that might happen and what we might be able to do to help them with that purchase. But that's for, you know.
That's for separate. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, that's for another place.
Right. Councillor Fraser's, Laurie, your cameras maybe needs to focus on you, or are you there?
Councillor Fraser is just coming back online, Chair.
Okay. If I hear that kettle whistling, there'll be trouble. Right,
No kettle. I'm just looking at the pictures.
right, okay. Glad to see,
Talking
glad
of
to see you
pictures, we'll
back.
need to get our photographs taken.
Okay, right. Thank you for that. Sandra, we'll hand over to you. It's pretty straightforward, the report. I have one or two things to say, but if there's anything you want to update before we open it up.
No, not really, Chair. Just to say that obviously the performance against most of the target, we've met the target and against most of the performance indicators. And that's section 7 of the report for rent arrears. There's an increase in rent arrears, which is the trend across Highland. And at 7.4 and 5, I've outlined what we're currently focusing on in terms of the eviction ban, but also what we're doing to try and assist tenants with current economic issues. Finally, just to point out to members, at 4.3 of the report, there is a link there toward reporting. And that provides members with a lot more information on various other performance indicators, as well as the ones in the report. And I'm happy to come to area business meeting and go through that link and the reports with members, if that would be helpful.
Yes, that would be very helpful. I think we'll see a lot more of you, Sandra, with the various things that are going on. And if you liaise with Lewis, then that'd be very much appreciated if you could come back at a later date. I have a few questions to ask, but I'll open it up first. Thank you, Sandra. Paul.
Yes, thank you for the report, Sandra. I have one question in relation to, and also good news about the hitting the target, which is grand. 7.2, I'm assuming that the figures that I'm looking at there are pounds. It doesn't say anywhere. The other thing I'd be interested in, whether you had this information, is how many houses that represents, because you only, I don't know what percentage of the renters are. That'd be interesting to know. Thank you.
Okay. Sandra?
I can respond to that, Councillor Oldham. Yes, it is pounds. Apologies, I can put that in future reports. But also, just for your information, we've got 270 cases of rent arrears. And our highest rent arrears sits within the band of £75 to £250.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. 2 points I was going to make. Firstly, on 5.3, quarter 1, quarter 2 with a shaky start. We're back in line quarter 3 and 4, and I was just wondering what happened. 5.3, quarter 1 and quarter 2. Somebody was off ill or something. I don't know. I just
we installed a new computer system.
Okay.
And also there were a couple of repairs in Nairn that went on longer than they should have gone on, so that impacted on the performance. Again, if members want any further detail, as in, you know, actual reasons, I can provide that to members.
Okay. The second thing, and I'm sure with rent arrears, behind the bare figures, I'm sure there's some very difficult personal situations, but as you've outlined there, the bulk of it's between £75 and £250, which is, I won't say it's comforting, but it's not massive arrears that are piling up with issues. So it's just, I think you're handling it well, and there is a policy in place, but it must be a very difficult situation, and we recognise that. The last thing I've just of interest on the homelessness. There's 17 presentations, whether individuals or families in Nairnshire. Now, I'm just wondering, have they some association with Nairnshire, or is it just pro rata and an allocation? How does this work? I didn't do the figures on pro rata to Inverness and the Highlands, but just to try and get a feel for it.
Yeah, they do have a local connection to Nairn, and if they're accommodated in Nairn, and again, allocations as well. It's something that we do monitor quite carefully, and the last report, which was recent, was indicating 90% of allocations, the applicant does have a need to reside in Nairn.
Okay, that's fine. Now, I'll hand over to Councillor Fraser, although his hand is not up. I'm sure that it's housing and Councillor...
No, I've actually... As Vice Chair of Housing, I asked all my questions a few weeks ago, so I'm quite happy with the answers I've had so far.
Well, in that case, we'll move to the recommendations in section 2. Sorry, Babs, apologies.
Excuse me. No, sorry, just a quick, but yes, we got answers the other day in the ward, so that was great. A lot of my questions have been covered by the others, so I won't repeat. The only thing I was going to ask regarding the rent arrears, which is quite a concern for the welfare of people, is there a common theme? Is it work related? Are there health issues? Are they carers? And what supports are available? Are they prioritised for support if they're struggling to pay back their rent? Would be good to know. I'm just scared.
They're all of these things, Councillor Jarvie.
Okay.
And we do have really good relations with the local CAB office. We've got our own welfare team, and we've also got our housing support that we can actually put in place if we feel that there's further support required to assist the tenant to try and not just address rent arrears, but financially there may be other issues that they would seek help with us from us. So CAB welfare team are excellent, and we've got a really good working relationship to help tenants, and it's really, really important tenants speak to us if they're in arrears as early as possible so we can intervene and try and prevent any serious us having to take formal action against a tenant. So it's really, really important that we get tenants talking to us as early as possible in the process, and that's what we try and do. And our housing management officers obviously go out and visit tenants at home and contact in a number of ways, including telephone, text messaging, etc.
Yes, it's good to see face-to-face engagement can obviously produce more amicable results. That's nice. That's more human and caring, I think. But yeah, just that people are getting the support and there's enough there locally for these people. Hey, thank you. Otherwise, oh, that link actually didn't work when I went into it. For the further page, is there an alternative link?
I'll deal with that for you, Councillor Jarvie.
Right, thank you for that, and look forward to seeing you in ward.
Is there any other points? I'll just go back. Does anybody wish to raise any other points? Okay, in that case, then we'll look at the recommendations and we're invited to consider. I think we've fully considered that. So thank you for that, Sandra, and we'll move on to the last item. Thank you. Right. I'm just looking, there's minutes. Sorry. Bear with me.
It's just minutes of the meeting.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see what's the appropriate wording for this.
Just for
you
notice,
proposed and seconded.
Just to note them.
Yeah, because they've been approved at Highland Council already.
Yeah, I'm just saying that noted them. Yeah, okay, that's
Agreed.
That's fine. Okay, we're agreed on that. And as far as I can see, that's that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other points? No. Thank you, guys.
No,
thank you, officers, and Lewis. Thank you.